Welcome back to Happy Hour here on the Craft Beer Runner. I have another friend of mine on tonight, Graham Kelly. He's coming in all the way from Scotland, Glasgow, I believe, correct?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Graham, you want to quickly introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, first of all, I hope folk can understand my accent. I don't know whether you can do subtitles. Mutual friend Lewis Escobar said he's been trying to understand me for 7 years now and he's not getting anywhere. But to say no Jack through running, primarily through the Born to Run event down in Los Alamos in California each May. I've had the privilege to come over, I think, 5 or 6 times now to run on the ranch, and it's nice to hook up. It's about 10:25 here in Scotland. What time's it over there, Jack?
We're at 2:20 or 14:20, as the rest of the world would say. Again, us Americans, we do all units of measurement wrong, including time. What are you drinking today?
Well, I'll explain why, but it's Infinite Session Ale. It's a alcohol-free IPA. We chat about just why craft beers have become a thing in Scotland, but and why I'm drinking alcohol-free, but it's actually quite nice.
And then, I got, in honor of you, because you're in Scotland, I picked up a unicorn, because that is the national animal of Scotland. This is from Revision Brewing in Sparks, Nevada. It's the Glitter Moon. It's a Northeast style hazy double IPA. Cheers, Graham. Thank you for being on the channel.
Good to see you.
Oh, that's really good. Graham, do you have any special traditions in Scotland to say cheers or to do before drinking?
So Gaelic's in Ireland, Gaelic's in Scotland. So traditional beers is Slanjava, which very much gets shortened to just similar to Skål out in Scandinavia. And it's nice. It's Slanja is spelled Slainte, which is probably why anybody reading it doesn't come out with Slanja.
Yeah, we know each other through running. You're all the way across the pond right now. We haven't been able to see each other because of COVID. Our annual event got canceled. Our plans that we were thinking about going to Scotland to visit you got canceled. So this is technically my first travel video, I guess.
I don't think they've been cancelled. They've just been temporarily suspended.
Yes, yeah, I mean, we will visit you. You will visit us, and we'll be drinking. So you're in Scotland. You're in Glasgow. And Scotland, at least in my mind, and I think a lot of Americans, associate it specifically with Scotch, with Scotch whiskey. But Scotland also is starting to have a craft beer scene, correct?
Absolutely. As we talked about previously, that for a long time there was 2 big breweries in Scotland, Tennant, Caledonia, and Scottish in Newcastle, and they very much had a monopoly on brewing, on the bars, on what beers were available in liquor stores, or off sales as we call them. England always had a much stronger national ale for independent breweries, and there was an organisation called CAMRA, which was Company for Real Ale. In England, a lot of the bars weren't tied to houses, they weren't tied to a specific brewery. And gradually that crept up into Scotland, and breweries down in the borders. There's a brewery, Broughton, which did some amazing beers, which were just of much higher quality than the big breweries. There's a equivalent of Coors and Budweiser versus some of the small craft breweries. But the big brewers had the market. It was very difficult for the independents to compete. But gradually, as the choices of beers and people have gone, I can actually get a really nice beer. We've been looking for brought ales. There's a place called Loch Fyne, big kind of sea inshore sea lake loch. So Fine Ales started up, Cairngorm Breweries started up, Williams Brothers in Alloa, and there was enough of a groundswell that people were moving away from the Coors, Budweiser type breweries into the independents. Probably one of the big changes was a company called Brewdog, who I think were tied in for a while with Stones in San Diego. And they took on the big breweries really aggressively with some really clever advertising. And one of their first ones was an IPA, it was called Punk IPA. They started opening up bars at the Selection. And because they had a bit of an attitude, they were tackling, they brought a youth market in, and as the generation below me grew up with a choice of beers, they just wouldn't drink bad beer. And we talked about Scotland does have a bad relationship with alcohol. It was very much seen as you drink to get drunk. And now I'm seeing my daughter's generation, 22-year-olds, they're actually going out and drinking things that they like to drink in a lot smaller quantities. And when money talks, the bar scene has had to change. So you can pretty much now go into any bar in Glasgow and you will find a selection of craft ales. You'll still get the big brewery type stuff, but there's a bigger movement. And that is also, that's that youth demographic. Scotch, which was very much seen as an old man's drink, something you drink, your dad would drink or your granddad would drink. That's become something that goes with craft beers. Craft gin has become popular.
So, Scotland, most people associate with Scotch, and you're saying in Scotland that's an old man's, or it used to be an old man's drink.
But changed so much.
So just like there's craft beer and independent breweries, is there a movement to craft distillery as well? Or is it the old, just like the distilleries that have been around for 400 plus years, the ones dominating?
The majority, a lot of the distilleries are owned by is it Diageo, United Distillers, so it's big business. So although you're buying unique single malts, the parent company is still a big business. But there's new distilleries starting up. So there's a Glasgow distillery starting up. There's one of the island of Lewis, which hadn't, and they're very careful about it. They said there's been no whisky legally distilled for 200 years on the island. Not to say it's not been illegally distilled, but the guy started up, he's learned distilling, he's designed his own distillery, and he's now, the nature of whisky is it's 3 years, 8 years, 10 years, 18 years. So although it's now starting to move, we won't see the benefit. But the first product is gin, and there's a huge market for craft gin, which will lead into craft whisky.
Yeah, and again, as you said, it's tough to do a startup whiskey when it takes 10 decades to get a good whiskey. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense that they start with a younger hard liquor and eventually get to the point where they've probably been brewing or distilling their scotch, but it's just not releasable for a long time. So that must be a really tough business to get into. My wife was out in Scotland with you 3 years ago. We were, and I think she said something stupid to you. She's going to kill me for saying this, but she said, "What's the difference between Scotch and whiskey?" I believe is that what she said to you?
Yeah. So it was a Monday night. It was a school night. It was a work night. It was a great pub, a great bar called the Hug and Pint. Like, we're all big huggers and enjoy beer, so that's a logical place. So we met up and we'd gone for some food. So we had a quick session. Right, that's buzzing away. Got a wee bar called Curlers in Scottish malt. If you don't like it, it's just that you've not found the one that you do like yet. There's such a range. So Jack's was over as well. So I just went out, got a range of 6 whiskies, representative of the islands, the Lowland, Bayside Island. So it was a range of whiskies, hoping that the girls liked one of them. And I think it's fair to say the girls liked all 6 of them.
Yeah, when I was in Scotland in 2012, I definitely did a whiskey tour. Just stayed in like small towns like overnight and made sure to go to all the distilleries. Like my favorite was up on the Isle of Skye. Just gorgeous out there in general. I think Scotland's like one of those gorgeous areas in the world. I can see why their national animal is the unicorn.
Really do.
The weather is I think very similar for the most part to here in Seattle. Maybe it's a little bit better year round in Scotland than it is here in Seattle. So you're also, besides running, you're an endurance runner, an ultra runner, but you also do other adventures. I love your Instagram. Your Instagram always have you, doing peaking a mountain you're on a stand-up paddleboard. You're rock climbing. You're mountain biking. You're road cycling. You do everything. So, where has been your most scenic beer?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a very good question. So without overthinking it, it has to be drinking a Scottish beer. Company Brewdog that started up. We've managed to, again from Born to Run, from running down the Copper Canyons, Canadian Sally Heath, which you know Sally. Sally and I done a road trip and met up in Vegas. We went out and found tequila in Vegas, and then with a van went through Death Valley and up to Yosemite. And Glacier Point had been closed from the winter, and I can't remember where, but we found a small store that had Brewdog, an IPA called Punk IPA, and Glacier Point opened up. So we hired a van from Escape, and it was Jurassic. It was a dinosaur painted down the side of it. So we drove dinosaur Jurassic up to Glacier Point, and we had some Brewdog Punk IPA, chips, dips, some tortilla-based food, and it's probably bad saying this. Don't try this at home. But there was a do not over this surveillance sign. So the first thing we did as a Canadian or a Scotsman, when an American told us not to do something, we went and did it. So we found fencing high above Yosemite Valley, Scottish beer, chips and dips. So that's the one that would stand out.
That's awesome. The thing about America is, as free as we are, we're also a very litigious society. So we have warnings on everything. We're a very no fun society for being so free. So I've never actually brought I should probably do this in the future, but I've never thought to bring good beer with me anywhere. I've had beer in beautiful places, but it's not good beer, and it's normally someone else has it, and I just get a can or something. I was on top of Pikes Peak in Colorado, and had someone gave me a PBR. Graham, I thank you for coming on. It's like I said, it's really great to see you. This is the closest I'm getting to traveling right now. I do want to ask you 4 questions. I ask these 4 questions to everyone. It's a way to get to know people a little bit better, also get to know different regions a little better as well. So, what is your first experience with beer? Beer specific. You might have had experience with Scotch before you had experience with beer, but
I remember it very well. there used to be a theatre, rock bands, a place called the Glasgow Apollo. So it was really famous. The equivalent of Denver Red Rocks. It was an iconic venue. And we were probably going to see the 80s Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. It was a heavy rock band. And we decided, we were still at school at the time, we decided we were going to go into a bar and try and get beer. And on the basis I always had the heaviest growth, I looked the oldest. So I went up, ordered 3 pints. The barman never gave me a second look, he handed me my 3 pints. Then went back into the corner and we were sitting 16 years old in this bar going to see a gig. This is brilliant. So we're all growing up now. And the barman came over, told us, finish your drinks and leave, you're barred.
Wait, so let me get this straight, because I've seen photos of you without the beard, and that was within the past 10 years. So you had a beard in high school? When you were 16, you had a giant beard?
I had a heavy growth, which made me look a bit older than the other guys. So I went to buy the alcohol as an underage drinker. Scotland, you either lager, which is a pilsner, or heavy, which is like a dark beer. But I just went up and asked for 3 pints of beer instead of 3 pints of heavy. So I think the barman figured out that I should not be in that bar.
So next up is, do you have a favorite style of beer?
Stout, absolutely. I love stouts.
And that's a popular beer in the UK overall, right? And you're drinking right now, you said you're drinking a non-alcoholic IPA?
Yeah, I like things with a strong taste and almost like a chewy texture. So I grew up where Guinness was about the only stout that was available, but now there's so many. There's a beer it's brought to make it Old Jock, and it's like a meal. It's a really nice, quite a heavy. You're not going to drink a lot of it, but it's really tasty. So I stout for sure.
And then, so in Scotland, do you have a favorite brewery or favorite beer in Scotland?
Again, there was one of the first independents was a place in Alloa called William Brothers, and they did a beer St Andrews. And do you remember the TV show Northern Exposure?
Yeah.
It used to be on a Monday night, and 10 o'clock at night, every Monday night, I'd sit down with 2 bottles of St Andrews ale and watch Northern Exposure. But they came out with a beer called Thrach, which was actually made, there's heather, which is on the side of every mountain in Scotland just about. So they made this heather ale. And again, it was just super tasty. So if somebody said you could have one more beer before you die, it would be Thrach. It's just a beautiful beer. Goes well with food, goes well with food, goes well at breakfast, lunch, evening. It's just a nice beer. The Thrach.
And then I know you like to travel. You typically get out to the United States, across the pond. On a normal year, you're here about 3 or 4 times a year. Whether it's doing Lewis Esparge races or going down to the Copper Canyons, or just you have, because of Born to Run, you have friends all over the country here. Do you have a favorite brewery here in the States?
Gee. I would say probably not a favourite brewery, but a favourite area, again, because of the connections. Around anything that's made around Ventura, Santa Barbara. I've been really fortunate, been out to visit people I know through Born to Run, and the breweries around that. Is that Central California rather than Southern?
It's not Central Coast quite yet. Like Santa Barbara, Ventura are still Southern California. Go a little further north, you're in the Central Coast, but yeah, it's the northern tip of Southern California.
Well, last year, last December. Remember I was out for Red Rocks, I was staying with Brenda Lewis, and she took me to a whole bunch of places in Ventura, and it was good.
Yeah, there's lots of good beer in Ventura and Santa Barbara and the surrounding areas
Nice
as well.
areas, you get food trucks beside them, so you can go here and get some nice food.
Yeah, and that's a lot of breweries that don't have a full kitchen. The beauty of the food truck is if it's a popular enough brewery, there's going to be a food truck. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Graham, thank you so much again. I can't wait to actually see you in person and for you to take me around Scotland on a beer tour, a Scotch tour, a running tour. I don't care. It can be stand-up paddle boarding. I don't care. I want to get back to Scotland and hang out with you. So,
Well, Cairngorms, we've got good trails, Cairngorm Brewery, and we've got distilleries and plenty, Spaysides.
awesome. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.